Yeah, I was in three accidents as a kid, bro. One when I was
Wow.
5, I hit my head on the side of the window because I had an operation as a baby. Actually, I had two operations as a baby when I was born without a soft spot, so I was diagnosed. So I've almost died literally. Like I was telling Rachel in text messages, I think it was like 7 times I've almost died. Literally almost died.
Jeez.
The, you know, yeah, and that's why like I try to talk to people. I don't care if you're going through your problems or you're on a good road. Everybody needs to have somebody they can talk to.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. Just want to let you know that this episode is once again brought to you by Sober Strong Apparel. Sober Strong Apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. You get heavyweight tees, hoodies like this one, hats, gear for ones who draw a hard line. Clean, sober, no compromise. We rep sobriety like a badge of honor, and every piece you throw on says you're a part of the crew that doesn't back down. So go to soberstrongapparel.com, use code ROCKBOTTOM, all one word, for 15% off. No longer 10%, we got 15% off now off every purchase. And please remember that every purchase, 10% of it goes to recovery facilities. So this brand represents a good cause. If you know anybody out there who's in recovery, sober curious, let them know to go to soberstrongapparel.com. Great quality clothing. It looks good. I wear it every day. Please check it out. Soberstrongapparel.com, y'all. Enjoy this episode. All right, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. I'm here today with Chris. Chris, how you doing? Good. I'm really happy to have you here. Been looking forward to interviewing you all week, and I want to definitely hear your story today. As you know, this is primarily a recovery podcast. We talk a lot about recovery, people's backgrounds with addiction and their ultimate recovery after. So just talking about the entire path from beginning to finish. So first and foremost, what was your drink or drug of choice? Do you have a sober date, all that stuff? What's
So
give a little
honestly,
background.
man, I never been actually addicted to drugs or alcohol, but where I connected with Rachel and other people is been around it my whole life. Mom, dad, sister, drugs killed my pops, things like that. And just the mental aspect of everything. That's where I come along and you know
Yeah,
dealt with like that. So it's been across my family, my whole family. Not directly hit me, but it's definitely hit me.
exactly. No, I mean, just being a part of anybody, affiliated in family wise, parents, siblings and stuff are addicted. You're basically a part of the addiction anyways. So whereabouts are you from?
I'm from California, man, Central Valley, originally from the Bay.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about growing up in a family with addicts and alcoholics if you're comfortable sharing stuff about it. Uh, what was it like growing up? What was your childhood like? What was the family dynamic and everything?
Just it was crazy, man. I mean, mom was addicted to not just alcohol but drugs. My whole family just alcoholics. Drug addicts, and it just was bad. Having to see them that way, having to see them struggle. Seeing the deeper problems, seeing the deeper roots. And then on top of that, moms and uncles and everybody around me when they would get so drunk or so on something, of course, frustrations get taken out by the next one. I mean, usually that was me. So took a lot of
Yeah.
beatings, took a lot of hit, man, took a lot of pressure, a lot of pain, and it just kind of turned me into a person.
Okay. So what did you experience, like verbal and physical abuse and stuff from
Here, you man.
did did you experience physical and verbal abuse?
My parents they split up probably when I was like 4. Dad's probably didn't really last that long, but mom was just a consistent battle. Hers was more because she lost my older sister when 5. I was born 86, so constant, just every day, beer cans everywhere, alcohol, the lines. I seen it all, man, in dope houses, crack hand houses, and in many car accidents because of the drunkenness, and it just wasn't a pretty sight growing up as a kid, so definitely impacted me. Did I drink as a kid? Yeah, yeah. Did I do some drugs? Nothing crazy. I smoked a lot of weed, sold the drugs. I mean, it went even into the sales. It went into you know, just being a bad kid, man, and it just wasn't pretty, and being and the parents struggle, that causes a different kind of hate from a kid standpoint, because you see all these other kids with, the moms and dads, and they're out, Chuck E. Cheese of the world, the parks playing with each other, and you see your mom and dad, and like they're struggling with their addiction, and you can't even, get them sober to have some fun as a kid, and that just kind
Yeah.
of differently, it is,
Becomes normal to you.
my dad, he passed away when I was 15 years old. He was killed, unfortunately, but they slipped cocaine and crystal meth into his beer, and it stopped his heart immediately. So ever since
That
then,
is
I just knew I didn't want to go that route. I knew the effects of it already at 14, 15, and I didn't want that for myself. I just wanted to be better than what I see my mom and dad doing. When my battle was more the depression, more the mental, the thinking I'm gonna kill myself, it just wasn't a good feeling at all, man.
no, I know. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry about your dad, and that's really difficult. And what was your relationship with your mother after he passed and everything?
After my pops passed away, she had already, my older brother moved out when he was like 12 because of that whole scenario. And then when I lost my dad, I didn't talk to nobody. I shut down, everybody, whatever, no matter what it was said to me, I would snap and just go wild, getting suspended from school, fighting and all that stuff. And, I sat my
Yeah,
mom down and I was like, hey, like, and she was sober. I caught her when she was sober. And I said, look, if you don't change your ways, you're going to lose your third child. I didn't
yeah,
want any part of it. I didn't want to be around it. I hated my life. I really did. And I gave it a couple weeks, and my mom damn near quit cold turkey. Has she battled it every day since for the last years? Yeah, she's battled, but she's had her falls where she's down to, but nothing like it has been. And being a long
wow,
relationship nowadays it's pretty damn amazing. I think it's more of a fear because she knows if she does it again, she won't see my kids. And I've laid it on. I think, and I told her from day one, like, don't do it for me. I don't want you to do it for me. Because I think that's where most people make that mistake when they're trying to get sober or trying to do something, is they're doing it for the wrong reason. Oh, I'm doing it for my kids, or I'm doing. You got to do it for yourself first. That's
exactly.
my thing. Like I said, I've been around it my whole life. I've talked to many people. I pick people's brains. I'm just one of those guys that wants to learn. So, look, people like yourself. I have a friend here in Vallejo, Vacaville, that I've known for shoot, probably about 6 years, but he's been clean and sober for 15, and he's active in the men's thing. I mean, I'm always trying to pick his brain too, because with what I do, I'm a recruiter, so I get these guys a lot that come into my office, and I want to help them not just be good workers. You know what I mean? I want to make an impact on people. If I could say something that's impactful to somebody, I'm more than happy to do it.
Good. So you're channeling a lot of the stuff you experienced into helping people now.
Yeah, 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 for sure, definitely, man.
So what? So when you got into like your high school years and stuff, and you sounds like you didn't have any structure at home and all that. Your mother was
Yeah.
struggling. You lost your father. So like, what kind of friend groups did you get into and stuff? And how did you start getting into a little bit of trouble and stuff?
Yeah, man. I mean, I just had my older brother. I had his fake ID. I'd go to bars with them, get in fights at the bars, get in fights, in, places, fights at school. I didn't really have a friend group. I just whoever was with me that could kind of deal with me. I guess I just kind of hung out with. I was a hothead, man. A lot of people didn't like me because I was an asshole. I was a dick. But it wasn't anything personal. People. It was just me taking frustrations out on whoever would take it, so it caused a lot of tension between me and a lot of people. Now there was those people where I was amazing person with, and the real Chris came out, but other than that, most of the people just got the asshole who hated the world and wished bad upon everybody.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm sorry to hear that. So like, did you ever talk to any like say counselors in high school, or like they ever kind of say like, hey, you're going through depression and anxiety, stuff like that?
Yeah, so as a kid, when my mom and dad were, going through it all, like I said, even then I was always to myself. I didn't really talk much to people, but I had an aunt who went to the court with my dad and said that I was 5150. And after that, that's where my trust issues came along. And then, once my dad died, I didn't really talk to nobody, but there was two people in my life that were, I guess you could say they were the counselors for me. I had a teacher who I'll never forget, man. His name was Mr. Higgins, over at Gila High School. I don't know if he's still alive or anything like that, but he pulled me aside one day, and this was after my dad passed away, and he was just like, man, like all he said was everybody has their moments. And I kind of just like looked at him like, what are you talking about, bro? And that's all he was saying to me for like, I would say like 5, 6 days straight. Just walk up to me, didn't say nothing, didn't expect me to say nothing. He would just come up to me and say that exact phrase. One day I went up to talk to him after class. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Or excuse my language, what are you fucking talking about, bro? Why do you keep saying that to me for? Like, what does it matter? He's like, you know what? I could tell you're going through something, Chris. He's like, and there's going to be a time in your life where something's going to click to your mind and everything's going to go smooth. And I kind of looked at him and I'm like, I didn't really pay attention, but then, later on I started thinking about it. And then I ended up starting for a school paper. I started writing for a school paper because I didn't want to play sports no more because my dad, that's the one thing that was my love. That was my passion. And then once my dad passed away, I stopped, right? But so I started writing for the paper. I did a piece for him and then I got to know him better. So ever since then, that always clicks to my mind. Everybody has their moment. Everyone has that one day where it's just gonna click. And now I turned 40 years old in 2 weeks, man, and that moment for me literally just happened maybe about 2 weeks.
Wow, it's
Yeah,
incredible. All right. So high school, yeah, I wrote for the paper in high school too. I was big into sports and stuff, and then when I had a chance to work in the school paper or whatever, I became the sports editor and stuff. So I found that a lot of fun, just like practicing writing and stuff like that, and do articles about athletes and stuff. So it was cool. But
fantastic.
but yeah, so you got like into clubs at least, and you were doing like productive things in school. Were you getting good
Yeah,
grades and all that?
yeah. No, you know what, dude? The grades struggled. The grades struggled. I still did a lot of stupid stuff. And I literally barely graduated high school. I went into college, got into like do all that stuff, and then a lot of other moments started happening, and I started spiraling again, and went through my first actual depression to where I was, I didn't think fully I never did the drugs, but I got into the eating, I got into the just doing stupid stuff, not caring, not giving a fuck about anything. I didn't care if I lived, didn't care if I died. And, then I
How old
got,
were you then?
I was about 20 years old when that happened, and it all just
Okay.
hit me because, at that point, I started thinking again, because I actually solved my dad's case, but it still to this day is considered a cold file. So that all kind of came back to me, other life issues, the situation I was going through at the time with, breakups and girlfriends and things like that. And, just bad moments, losing some people and, just all kind of things again. And I just went through a whole spiral where I wasn't working anymore. I was working 3 jobs, going to school, and then that hit me and I literally just spiraled down again, and, um, think it was a couple years after that I got with now it's my 3 kids I have. I got with their mom and then I started going back up again. And then, she probably about 25, 26 after we had our first kid, that's when it all started happening again. And I left myself in that situation for a good 10 years, dealing with eating. She was, I know men aren't supposed to talk about it, but she stabbed me a couple times. She ran me over with the car. She almost killed me. I just started eating food, getting big. I got all the way up to about maybe I would say about 390 pounds, and I was always like around 200. And then, just we had a couple kids, and then I want to say like 2018 when we had our son, my little nephew, which is her blood, came up to me and he was like, Theo, what are you doing? This is going on for years, and everybody can tell, something was up with me, and I was doing what I had to do to survive. You know what I mean? And I wasn't talking about my emotions. I wasn't talking about my problems. I was just kind of going about my business and as a young man, you're always taught, don't share your feelings, don't talk about your feelings, don't do this, and that's when I met that guy I talked about earlier, my buddy Manuel Valentine from Vacaville, and he was just like, man, Chris, it's okay to share your feelings, I'm doing this. He was just started with the steps, the program, and he said, it's okay to share your feelings, and after that, me and him just started talking, and, I started letting my feelings out, and then I had one bad day where I actually left my kid's mom and found myself at the top of the hill and with a gun in my hand and ready to kill myself, man. And I sat back by myself in that car for a good, I say about 4 or 5 hours, and I just thought about my kids and thought about my son, who was at the time only a year old. And I snapped out of it. I lived in my car for a little bit, and still battle with it till this day. But I mean, it's a lot easier to deal with, and once I got, sorry, I backtracked right there, but once I got through my situation, I moved in with my mom and, got myself back together, got my stability back, put my feet back under me. Fast forward another year, I got with my wife. We started dating. She has kids, I have kids. We made our family blended. We have a son together. And I'm on a health trip. I'm on a really big health trip. I had another little situation back in 2022 where I almost died. I was in a really bad car accident, broke my ribs, broke my hands, my wrists, and literally the airbag saved my life.
And you were in a car accident as a kid too?
Yeah, I was in 3 accidents as a kid, though. One when I was
Wow.
5, I hit my head on the side of the window because I had an operation as a baby. Actually, I had 2 operations as a baby when I was born without a soft spot, so I almost died of those, you know? So I've almost died literally, like, I was telling Rachel in text messages, I think it was, like, 7 times I've almost died, literally almost died.
Jeez.
The you know yeah, and that's why, like, I try to talk to people, I don't care if you're going through your problems or you're on a good road, everybody needs to have somebody they can talk to.
Can I ask a few questions? I want to get back to the accidents too, but is it okay if I elaborate a little bit on the food addiction? Because I have talked about it with women on the show, but not men before. So I was curious, like, when did you first realize your relationship with food was
Honestly, bro, it's probably when I mean, I've always enjoyed it, I'm a Mexican Canadian. Food's a part of our family, but I was never like to where the point where I had to have it until I was probably say about 25 or 26.
okay?
To the point where I would go to McDonald's or Jack in the Box and order a whole ass meal, but then get all the sides and sit there and eat it all in one eating. Bro, I was eating like 3,000 calories in one meal, 4,000 calories,
Yeah,
3 double cheeseburger, it was just bad, and I was like a good 220 at 25 years old. Then I started doing all that and weight fluctuated. My buddies would be like, Chris, you're getting big. And I would ignore them. And then, like I said, it got to the point where I was like about 390 and borderline diabetic. And I started, got back to health. And then now, honestly, I was at one point after the car accident, I don't mean to bring it back to that, but one point after the car accident in 2022, I was 480 pounds, dude. Today,
for
480. And today I just weighed myself today at the hospital because I had to do a checkup. I was 245 pounds.
wow, congratulations! You dropped half your weight. That's
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Congratulations. Do you think food was like filling some kind of void emotionally when you were eating?
Definitely would say that, because, they say addiction is a more like a personality. And if it's in your blood, you're going to have that, it's just going to be more harder to face it, and it may not come in the same forms as your family members, but it's still a part of you, and that's something I try to teach my kids too, because, like my brother does, he would always tell me, don't drink, bro. Don't do this. Don't do that. Do this. Don't do that. And but I was
Yeah,
drinking. You know what I'm saying? So we were drinking
yeah,
and doing this, and he started using the dope, and he was addicted to dope for about 12 years. And I got him off of dope, but now instead of dope, he drinks. So it, it
yeah.
it's a constant
Oh,
battle for anybody. And it's not.
it is
It's really.
replacing one
I wish
addiction
there
with
was.
another.
Yeah, I wish there was an easy way out for people, but there really isn't, man.
I know, I know. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're trying to fill voids, and you never know if you were eating because of trauma from childhood or whatever, or if it was like a way where you felt safe when you were eating and it was just
Yeah.
your own little,
It was a
you know.
comfort thing, I'm not gonna lie, it was a comfort thing, when I ate, it was like it relaxed me, and I wouldn't do anything but what I was eating, and I just would sit there and snack, and I finally realized it, and I'm like, what am I doing? Even when I was that big a couple years ago, I was actually losing weight before my accident, and I was doing good and getting back in shape because I got custody of my kids, and I'm like, if I don't change now, then I may not be here long enough for them, So I started changing in an accident, and I couldn't do nothing for a long time, bro. I was in the like basically bedridden for about 2, 3 months, and then I have a metal plate in my ankle, and then I couldn't really run, but I slowly got into things. And then I want to say May of last year, I talked to the doctor, and the doctor was like, dude, if you don't change something, you're going to die. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
was
that
on,
was my next question is what was like the turning point as far as
yeah, so
your
I was a
diet?
type 2 diabetic. I was on 3 different diabetes medicines. I was on 2 blood pressure pills and some heart pills. And they were eating at my liver, eating at my kidneys, and things like that. And he just told me, like, if you don't change now, you're just gonna eventually just die, man. And I looked at him, I said, let's do something. And at that point, it was about 395, I think, or 380, 380 or 390, between 380 and 395. And this was like, I want to say March. And then in May, we set myself up with a dietitian and, started doing everything the right way. And it was a jump start right from the beginning. Like they basically put me on a strict diet like right away. Like I didn't have time to like ease into it or nothing. It was a low calorie, high protein diet, and I've been on it ever.
Yeah. Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome. Since you've been on your diet, what does craving feel like today and how do you deal with that?
So with cravings, obviously my big thing for my whole life has always been Reese's peanut butter cups. So peanut butter chocolate, pizzas,
Love those.
cheeseburgers. My wife's actually on the journey now with me too. So the alternatives and going about it that way. So instead of bread, we found a way to make bread just cut and eggs. So it's healthier, lower protein, and just everything. Pizzas, I don't eat the crabs, and I found alternatives to like yogurts, and it's just crazy. So
Like
I think
ice
I'm
cream, you can get like
yeah,
healthier ice
even ice
cream
cream.
and
So
stuff.
with stuff like that, like I'll maybe do like once every blue moon and just have like a very small portion, just so I don't, go back.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. Like, what tools helped you the most in breaking the cycle? Like, once you started to change.
Honestly, and I don't mean to sound cocky, but just my self motivation. I'm a motivated person, but to just believing in myself, and that's all it really took for me, just believe in myself and to see the joy out of my family's faces from me doing something for myself, and doing something that's gonna make me.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's amazing. So, like, when once you started to get back in shape, lose all that weight, feel better about yourself, and use that motivation to, get to where you are now, like, did all those like negative thoughts, thoughts of suicide and stuff like that just slowly dwindle?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I still get in little modes, but nothing as bad. I get into, oh shoot, I missed right. Am I doing that right? Another thing too is this last December, I actually graduated from college too. I put myself in
Congrats.
school. So, just a lot of things changing, not just for myself, but for my family. Actually, my son's standing on the other side of my phone right now, listening, trying to tell me something. I'm telling me to hold on. So, but
That's
yeah,
all good.
just everything just for the family, man, just staying motivated. I'm listening to a lot of like motivational speakers. I listen to a lot of, it sounds funky, but I listen to a lot of videos from your boy, my boy, Recovery 209. Shout out to him,
Love
um,
Bernardo. Yep.
yeah, I know, man, good people right there.
Yeah.
Just a lot of just inspiring things that I can relate to, staying on my good terms. I have a little routine I do every.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So like it's kind of cool that we kind of connected because you don't have like a history with drug abuse or alcoholism, even though you've done it like everybody else, but like food addiction is a really interesting thing. So like what does one day at a time look like when it comes to food?
Dude, man, just not thinking about it. I guess I don't know. That's a
Yeah.
good question, actually. I don't. I don't see it the same way now that I'm getting in shape and I'm eating and I'm doing better and I'm, working out and, I'm actually doing my own investigations, learning about stuff. Like I learned about monsters and how bad monsters are, why monsters are bad for you. And yet
Oh yeah.
people drink
Energy
them,
drinks are horrible.
and it's just like, dude, I don't want to put that poison in my body anymore. Do I still do, like coffees and, some bad stuff here and there? Yeah, but it's not sitting there, like I said, eating 3, 4 double cheeseburgers in one sitting, or eating a whole ass cake to myself. It's not that bad, and it's
Yeah, exactly. Now let's talk a little bit about like because you mentioned earlier, it's hard for us men to admit certain things, whether it's abuse or addiction and stuff. Like, was it hard to admit you had a food addiction as a man?
yeah, it was, man. Because honestly, it really didn't really think about it like that. I always thought it was kind of funny that people said that could be, and then like I said, when I had my turning point a couple years ago, I told myself I was like, I had a stupid food addiction. I really did,
Yeah,
and it just like I
yeah,
said, everything just clicked and all at that one time, and it took a lot of experience and a lot of things that I went through to admit it, and then things started falling into place.
that's awesome. So, like, did you notice, because I'm assuming when you were kind of bedridden from accident and up in like the high 300s to 400 pounds, you probably weren't very active. So, like, once you start getting active again, did your relationships with like your kids and family get better?
Yeah, definitely, man. Work here first. My son, he's 7. We ran just not even far distance. It was the first time I ran in like 15 years, bro. Literally, and
Wow.
we ran like I want to say like not even maybe 300, 400 feet. He looks up at me. He's like, "Dad, you could run," and I laugh. And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, Dad can run," but
I used to play sports.
yeah, 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 and it's good because I get out there with them. We go play catch, and I'm just way more active now, man. It feels
That's
amazing. My
so
feet
cool.
don't hurt. I don't have all the aches and pains. I'm in the gym 4 times a week.
Awesome. 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 So that's cool. So it's helped you bond with your kids more. Now they can
Yeah,
see what you're capable of now. And, when they want to do something, they're like, hey, dad, you can come out and do it now.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
there's no
Even work,
excuse or anything.
everybody at work, all the ladies, because I work in an office setting, all the ladies are like, "You're confident." I've always had the confidence. It just
Yeah.
it failed to show because I was that big. I didn't want to stand out. Now I'm just, you know, even people when I
Yeah.
go see people when I go to stores here in town, like they're like, "Dad, what happened to the rest of you?" And
That's so cool. I mean, and it's like you look in the mirror and it's like a whole new person. So, um, what's been the hardest part about of staying consistent every day? Like you said, you go to the gym 4 times a week. You
yeah,
have the replacement foods that you can still have your sweets, but in a different way. Like,
yeah.
what's been the hardest part?
Hardest part, man, is just saying no sometimes, and being more consistent saying no. And there's days where I'm just like, I don't want to go to the gym today, or I don't want to do this today. But ever since, like I said, I started my whole mental game changed when I left my ex back in 2019. So that's when I was listening to the videos. But like I said, it really just clicked a couple years ago. But I was still listening, I was still practicing, but it wasn't consistent. So I heard, and I listen, like I said, I listen to a lot of motivation. My person is Steve Harvey. A lot of people don't like him, but that's
I
that's
like
my person. He's a very good guy, very smart, knows what he's talking about. But it's the one thing he said one time where he said, when you wake up in the morning, instead of saying I can't do something, say I get to do this instead of I can't, because then your mentality right away starts like, oh shoot, I get to do this,
yeah,
I get to do that. You know what I mean? And I do that
yeah,
every morning. So I wake up, I sit on the edge of my bed, and I just gratitude, bro. That's all it was. Just being more thankful for seeing my kids wake up, for brushing my freaking teeth. It's the smallest things that I'm grateful for that lead to the bigger moments in life. And I just try to show the gratitude and try to show the thanks and just go about it that way, and just being positive, showing a positive mentality. Things are negative. You got to be
exactly. Now that you are thinking more positively and you have such a good mindset now and motivation, do you have you been able to address some of the traumas, not even just from childhood, but like say traumas from accidents and stuff? Have you
oh
finally been
yeah,
able to address those?
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, most definitely, man. I just everything that's happened to me in life. I was just talking to a guy today because like I said, I do recruiting. So I was interviewing this guy today, and he was just down, and I shared him a little bit of my story, and I was just like, you know what, man? Now that I've been through what I've been through, and I could honestly say and say I've been through everything and some. You know what I mean? There probably hasn't been anything in my life besides, I'm sorry to bring it up, but in molestation, I've never been molested. But that's the one thing I've never been through as my kid, as an adult. Everything else, you name it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Grief
think,
and trauma and
yeah,
abuse.
yeah,
Those are all
I'm
really
thankful, you know
serious.
what I mean? And I think of it all always been, but um, I think of the negative time and turn it into positive and just use it as like a motivation. You know what I mean? Okay, well, and I always think, and I know I shouldn't think this way, but I always think that the person across from me is doubting me, and so it doesn't cause me to hate the person. It just causes me to dig deeper and go.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
with work. So I'm always trying to push myself to be better. And people are like, oh, why are you trying to be better than me? No, I'm not trying to be better than you. I'm trying to be a better version of myself. My son, I'm
Exactly.
talking about this right now because he got in trouble at school today. And I was telling him right now, you got to be a better person than you were yesterday. Whatever you did
Exactly.
yesterday, think about what you did wrong.
Exactly. And if we're frustrated with another person, like if your son was upset at some other kid or something, or if you and I are upset, you can almost like nowadays that we're sober from our addictions, we want to just look at it like, how can I help that person? Or how can I be a better person myself? How can I learn from this? So,
Yeah. My favorite
yeah,
thing is tell her 1% better every day. That's all
exactly.
it takes. Just 1%. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Just do.
And I really like what you said about what Steve Harvey said. Like, I get to do this. Like, I can't do this today, no, but I get to do this. It's an opportunity. It's like just like trying to push myself to go to the gym on days that I don't want to. I mean, I try to go 5 days a week, and then days that I don't want to, I'm just kind of like, I know I'm going to feel better afterwards, and I'm capable of going to the gym, and there's people
Yeah.
that can't. So 2 years ago, I would be drinking my ass off in my bed. So it's like, this is where I'm at now. So I'm capable of going to the gym. So it's good. So what does like discipline mean to you now?
You know, um, Discipline is, not just holding yourself accountable, but, I'm, I motivate. Like I say, I tell my kids, you got to do this, you got to do that. By me doing that, it's holding myself accountable because I'm trying not only be a better person in life, I'm trying to be a better father, I'm trying to be a better human being. So by me doing that, the only way to be a better person or a better human being is helping others. So making sure that I'm not just
Yep, exactly. No, lead by example. So that's really good. Do you mind comparing, say, 24 hours at your worst, 24 hours today?
it's a way different feeling, man. Like the old me, bad Chris, smoking a couple blunts, eating away, going out to the world, and first person that looks at me, we're fighting, we're arguing, we're talking, ready to scuffle, seeing somebody, I would just laugh at them. That person going through something, fucking
Yeah.
idiot, fuck them. I didn't care about
Yep.
nobody, I didn't even care about myself. So how would I care about somebody else? Nowadays, we'll walk into the store. If I see somebody, with a sad face, I'm like, hey, dude, come on, and this is something my dad used to say, but smile. Life's not that bad, you know, life's
Exactly.
too short, laugh, smile, have a good time, and I'll try to make people laugh. Hey, if I don't know you, hey, you all right? Everything okay? Or, even like people on the street, hey, you thirsty, you hungry, with them, even them, oh, I want a beer. I won't buy you a beer, man. You want some food? You want some water? I got you. But if you want a beer, I'm not going that route. You don't need the beer, just making changes, the littlest changes, the littlest things.
Yeah. No, exactly. Just the simplest hello, can make somebody's day. You never know what they're going through. So that's awesome. So yeah, so obviously 24 hours now is a lot more positive for you, a lot more disciplined. You're taking care of yourself. What other things are you doing throughout your day? Like what work related and helping people? What other things
I
are you up
mean,
to?
just, like I said, I do recruiting, so I help people find jobs. And then, throughout the day, it's just touching as many people as I can, like all my people, all my friends, family, my wife, they all know if they need something, just I'm a phone call away. I'll stop anything.
So you do recruiting like kind of like a headhunting job or you help people
It's more through a staffing agency. Sorry, I'm sitting up.
Oh, okay.
So I work right now as a recruiter. Like I said, I just got my degree in business administration, so I'm trying to get into like the HR and operations kind of.
Cool. All right. Well, I won't take up too much of your time. So, like, because I can tell you're busy too. You got or somebody in the background. So I was like, so yeah. So your relationship with speaking of her significant other, I'm sure she appreciates the changes you've made, and your
Oh yeah,
relationship's better now.
oh yeah. I
Awesome.
mean, it's always me and her relationship. It's always been tight. We've been married. We're going on 3 years and been together for 5. So I like to say
Congratulations.
most of my changes are because so.
That's amazing. So just going through like traumas and it seems like you got a lot of anger and frustration and I don't give a fuck attitude for a lot of years. And now you're, being a good husband. You've lost a lot of weight. You're disciplined. You have a good relationship with your kids. You graduated from college. You're helping people find jobs. I mean, it's like incredible transformation, to be honest. So it's pretty cool. So, as far as dealing with the traumas from the past and stuff, you're dealing with those now a little bit more. Do you see any counseling or anything like that?
I really don't. I mean, I just, if I need to talk, I just talk about it. I'm up nowadays that I'm older, so I'm not afraid to talk about stuff no more. So it's not like, I mean, yeah, probably a professional would probably help me a little better sometimes, but to just, talking about it, writing it down on paper, and just expressing how I feel, and you know, towards the wife, she actually you know, gets the anger sometimes, just so I can just get it off my chest. But that's what it's about, supporting each other's goals, and being just that, as Tyler, just being that power couple, just being
Yep. And that's is that kind of what the quote means on your Instagram, or what does it mean to you? For those I love, I will sacrifice.
definitely what it sounds like, man. I'll do anything for the work I love. There's not a, there's absolutely nothing I want to do for the ones I love. I actually have fun.
Yeah. Awesome. So if I love that. It's a good quote. And then, if like, say, for my listeners, what advice would you give to anybody right now struggling with addiction, whether it's food addiction, drug addiction? What advice would you give based on your experience?
Honestly, I would just say get help. Get help. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get help. Ask questions. Find yourself that person. Everybody needs somebody. They really do. I don't care what the addiction is. You need that to have the support. Then, I've never met anybody that's done it alone. You know, and it's just having that person you could talk to. that they're not
Exactly.
going to judge you, like I hear Bernardo talking to these people all the time, and that's what it seems
Yeah.
like. A lot of these people don't feel like they have anybody, but in reality they do, and for your listeners, you may not know me, you may not ever meet me, but you message me on Instagram and have a question, I'm going to answer, if I
Yeah.
could help somebody, help you. I met a guy, I follow this guy, his name's Cuzzo. He's a foodie. And I met he started like a fitness page when I first started my journey. And I'm actually, um, that I've never met him, but
Yeah.
he
It's
messaged me,
amazing
"Hey
the
bro,
relationships you can build.
I'm going through this, I'm going through this, I'm going through that." So I shot him. He's homeless. He's living in his car. Gave him some information about housing and how to get some housing help. And he's doing
Yeah.
that. And he's messaging me, "Hey, my daughter got fired, bro. Shoot him to get a job." And good
Awesome.
dude, good person. I'm eventually gonna meet him, and just life's, been crazy, with school and everything. And, I just,
Yeah.
everybody, like, I'm sorry, go back to something,
No, it's
no matter
yeah.
what you're going through, and, I've talked to Rachel a little bit, and I'm excited to hear her little brief story and little stat she's not on today, but hey, it's all good, but, just anybody, man, it doesn't matter. Let's just make it
I know.
happen and be better versions of yourself, like I said earlier, be 1% better.
I love that. No, it's an amazing community out there. There's people I've met since starting the podcast and finally getting into social media after I started the podcast. And some of the relationships I built, I feel like I have a group of friends, and only like one of them, and I've like 10 people I talk to on a regular basis who I consider my good friends. I've only met one of them in person. That's Rachel. And it's like, but I still feel just as close to these people because I trust them. I know I could reach out at any moment and have the support I need, and vice versa. And it's the community is amazing, when you meet people through this. So it's really cool. And we all recovered from a different story, whether it's similar, like if it's alcoholism or drugs or food or this or that. We all overcame something, and we can all motivate each other. Yep. Well, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being on and sharing bits of your story. I think it's really inspirational to my listeners to hear, what men go through, going through trauma and abuse and food addiction and stuff. That's something we don't talk about enough on the show. So really grateful for you being on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.